Ben McKee, West Rucker, Go Vols 24/7 here inside of Lucas Oil Stadium, where Tennessee's run in the NCAA tournament has come to an end because of a 69-50 loss to Houston in the Elite Eight. The Zakai Ziegler, Jemai Mashak era is over, unfortunately. And today, my two simple thoughts is that Houston is really, really good at basketball, and it was just a really tough day for the office for Tennessee, in large part because of how good Houston is at basketball.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you want to split hairs, it would, if Tennessee had just made a few open shots or just been a tiny bit better in the first half, you never know which way that thing will go. I will say this, those teams play a 7-game series, Houston wins it, almost certainly, because Houston is there's not many teams in the country. In fact, they're the only one that's better than Tennessee offensively and defensively. And it's a hard deal because in some ways it felt to me like those teams have so many similarities in the way that they play. Houston's just got a little bit more guys, a little bit more depth, just a little bit better team. And so there's no shame in being in that second tier. In fact, Tennessee might be the best team on that second tier, but metrics show pretty clearly there are 4 teams clearly above the rest in college basketball this season. Tennessee was number 5.
Yeah, Tennessee just did not have enough on either side of the basketball, particularly in that first half. They fought back as you knew they would in the second half. Jordan Gainey really got going down the stretch to try and pull Tennessee back, and Tennessee would flirt with cutting it to 12. They got it to 10 at one point. They would flirt with getting it back to single digits, but Emmanuel Sharp for Houston and the rest of that Houston team, just every time Tennessee would get close to cutting it to single digits, they would just give a dagger right back to Tennessee.
The exact opposite of what happened in the Kentucky game in many ways. It was the team that clearly had more fans. The fans were desperately trying to bring them back, but the other team was just a better basketball team. And that's when you get into a situation like that, when you are down by that many points and the clock becomes your enemy, you have to press, you have to trap, and so you're going to force a few turnovers. You're also going to leave some open shots. And that's what Rick Barnes said is that, and he's not wrong, that there are things that you're going to give up when you do that, and you just have to hope those things don't go in. And because at that point you're looking for an inside straight draw. Tennessee just didn't get it. And again, that's why if things are just a tiny bit closer in the first half, that game could have gone a different way. I think Houston probably wins it anyway, but Tennessee could not do anything right in the first half. Did not get a lot of open shots, missed the ones they did get, could not keep Houston off the offensive glass, tried different combinations, couldn't get it to work. And so when that happens, you just put yourself in a situation where you have to be perfect. And Tennessee really having a free throw, which is an open look, and also a wide open, or open 3 from Chaz Lanier, which is a look that you would like. They had those chances to get it to single digits on those shots. The crowd was pushing them. You never know. But you get behind by 22 points in the first half, you're almost never going to win a basketball game.
As I mentioned, the loss brings the Jemai Mashak and the Zakai Ziegler era to a close, and certainly there are others, seniors who are moving on. Chaz Lanier had a great year at Tennessee. Igor Milicic was up and down, but overall a net positive, I feel like, for Tennessee this year. Darlington Dubar, his last game as a Vol, and then Jordan Gainey, his second year with Tennessee was by far his best one. I mean, he was so much fun to watch this season, but obviously this loss is all about Zakai and Jemai and those guys leaving the program, and it was tough watching those guys walk off the floor, being so emotional. A ton of respect for Houston. I mean, that's one of my big takeaways this weekend is just the amount of respect I gained for that Houston program as a whole. All of their players and coaches gave Zakai and Jemai their time on the floor during the handshake line, and even went over to the bench, got down with them, gave them their flowers. I was just very impressed by Houston and how they handled themselves on and off the floor. You can see why Kelvin Sampson and Rick Barnes are BFFs. But that was tough. It pulls on the heartstrings watching people you spend a lot of time around for so long go through that, and then obviously several great quotes and moments. Rick Barnes hugging Zakai Ziegler when he checked out of the game. Zakai said sorry, and Rick mentioned post-game that he has nothing to be sorry for. He gave it everything he had.
Yeah, I mean, there's 360 whatever teams in Division I basketball. 68 of them are either good enough during the regular season or win their conference tournament to get here, and 67 of those 68 teams are going to end their season with a loss. You play the numbers, you realize how hard it is. And you know, to get so close to 2 Final Fours and to have none, yes, that is a disappointment. Tennessee as a program in the big picture wants and needs to be in the Final Four, deserves to be in the Final Four at some point, and that's a conversation for another day because it needs to happen at some point. But these guys who have gotten this thing to the Elite Eight for just, you know, 2 of the 3 times in program history, 2 of the 3 30-win seasons in program history, neither one of them has anything to lower their head about. I mean, Jemai Meshack in particular had a really frustrating final game, but that is basketball. That is life. You look at the, whatever, 160, whatever games they played for Tennessee, 160, 170. Hell of a lot more of those were good than bad. They're 2 guys that people are not going to forget. We said in the podcast before this game, and still said it now, Ziegler needs to be up in the rafters for everything he's meant for the program and what he's done. But 67 teams of this are going to go home with an L. Tennessee's one of them. There were only, 6 teams left. Tennessee was one of them. Close, but just not quite there.
Nope, and we will have plenty of reaction up at the site at GoVols247.com in the wake of Tennessee's loss to Houston. Wes and I are about to hit the road and get back to Knoxville, so we'll have plenty of coverage throughout the rest of tonight and into tomorrow and over the course of the week as well. Yep. Tennessee now fully turns their attention to the transfer portal, so we'll have plenty of postseason coverage and plenty of portal coverage, as Rick Barnes stated earlier this time period in Indianapolis, that he has no plans of going anywhere and being the coach next season, and he's got quite a bit of work to do with the roster.
Well, the last thing I'll say is just because you brought that up, Rick Barnes during his presser, if you go back and listen to it today after the game, he talked about everything that Meshack and Ziegler have done, 2 of the most unforgettable, you know, players, 2 of the most memorable, high-achieving players in program history, and that he said, we owe it to them to get back here and win. He did not say this program does. He said we. It was very, very clear that in his mind right now, he's going to go hit the portal, build another group of dudes, and try to come back and win, and try to come back and win for them. I think he just made that very clear.
Yes, he did, and he's got a ton of work to do to rebuild this roster with so many guys leaving the program this offseason, and we'll have plenty of coverage of that at GoVols247.com. I'm Ben McKee. He's Wes Rucker.